Mick Jagger had quietly finalized plans for his vast estate. The world was stunned. The legendary Rolling Stones frontman, known for his wild energy and untouchable charisma, had built not just a musical empire but an unimaginable fortune over 6 decades. Yet behind the glamour and legacy lies a story that left even his closest family members in tears. What Mick decided to do with his wealth, and who he chose not to include, shocked everyone. At first glance, Mick's life appears untouchable. Private jets, mansions around the world, priceless art, and music royalties that flow endlessly. But beneath the surface is a deeply emotional tale of family conflict, love lost, and the haunting fear of mortality that comes with age. As the rock icon nears his twilight years, questions swirl about his final wishes, his true intentions, and the staggering value of his empire, one estimated to be worth hundreds of millions. For decades, Jagger was seen as indestructible, the eternal rebel who outlived every trend and tragedy. But now, the reality of legacy weighs heavily on him. The fortune he's leaving behind has not only divided his family but forced them to confront the emotional scars that fame and fortune never healed. What they discovered when the details emerged brought tears, regret, and ultimately, understanding. Because Mick Jagger's final decision isn't just about money. It's about what truly matters when even legends must face the end. Mick Jagger's story begins long before the world knew his name. Born Michael Philip Jagger in Dartford, England, in 1943, he grew up in an ordinary middle-class family, a far cry from the luxury that would one day surround him. His father was a teacher, his mother a hairdresser, and both worked hard to instill in their son discipline and education. But Mick had something no one could teach, a restless energy and charisma that seemed to burn from within. That spark would eventually ignite one of the most iconic careers in music history. When Mick first met Keith Richards, it was a moment that changed the course of rock and roll forever. The two bonded over their shared love for American blues, and soon after, the Rolling Stones were born. From dingy London clubs to packed stadiums around the world, Jagger's electric stage presence and unique voice became the heartbeat of a generation. Fame arrived quickly, and so did wealth. By the late 1960s, Mick was earning sums that few musicians could even imagine. Cars, mansions, and endless parties became the norm, but the money was only part of what defined him. Behind the fame was a man fiercely protective of his image and legacy. Mick didn't just want to be a rock star. He wanted to build something that would last beyond his lifetime. With sharp business instincts and a deep understanding of the music industry, he made sure every contract, every tour, and every album contributed to his financial empire. Unlike many of his peers who lost fortunes to bad deals and reckless spending, Mick's discipline set him apart. By the 1980s, his wealth was already legendary. From music royalties and touring revenues to real estate and investments, Jagger had quietly amassed an empire worth hundreds of millions. Yet with that fortune came a new kind of pressure, the weight of responsibility. Mick had fathered children with multiple partners, each living very different lives under the enormous shadow of his fame. Managing that sprawling family, emotionally and financially, would prove to be one of the greatest challenges of his later years. Despite the glamour, Jagger's personal life was marked by loss and heartbreak. Relationships ended painfully. Tragedies struck, including the devastating death of his longtime partner, Loren Scott, in 2014, an event that deeply affected him. Friends close to Mick say it was during this time that he began thinking seriously about his legacy. He had spent a lifetime performing for millions, but as he watched those closest to him suffer, his priorities began to shift. The rock god, who once seemed invincible, was suddenly aware of his own mortality. Mick began to organize his finances meticulously, determined that his family would never face confusion or conflict after he was gone. But even with careful planning, not everyone agreed with his choices. As his estate grew, with properties stretching across England, France, and the Caribbean, and royalties that would last for generations, questions arose. Who would inherit it all? How could a man with such a vast and complicated family ensure fairness? What no one expected was the emotional impact those answers would have. When word began to circulate about the details of Mick Jagger's final arrangements, even those who thought they knew him best were left in shock. The fortune he had worked a lifetime to build was not divided the way most assumed. It wasn't just about wealth, it was about sending a message, one that revealed a far more personal side of the man behind the music. And for his family, that revelation would be both heartbreaking and deeply human. Mick Jagger managed his career like a master strategist. While most rock stars of his era lived fast and burned through their fortunes, Mick was always one step ahead. He wasn't just a performer. He was a businessman, an investor, and above all, a planner. Every dollar earned from the Rolling Stones was carefully accounted for. Every property, every deal, every publishing right was deliberately chosen. His empire wasn't an accident. It was built piece by piece through sharp instincts and relentless discipline. Today, Jagger's net worth is estimated to exceed $500 million, but the true value of his legacy can't be measured in money alone. His assets include sprawling estates in England and France, a private island in the Caribbean, luxury apartments in New York, and art collections worth tens of millions. Then there's the endless stream of royalties from the Rolling Stones catalog. Music that continues to generate revenue long after its release. Even in his later years, Jagger remains one of the highest-earning performers in the world. But what really shocked his family wasn't how much he had. It was what he planned to do with it. For someone with 8 children by 5 different women, questions of inheritance were always going to be complicated. Each child came from a different chapter of his life, from the youthful chaos of the 1960s to the quieter, more reflective years that followed. His relationships with them varied, shaped by time, distance, and circumstance. Yet, despite the complexity, Mick wanted to make sure that everyone received what he felt they deserved, even if it meant making difficult choices. According to those close to him, Mick's decision-making was deeply personal. He believed in responsibility and effort. He often told friends that his children should earn their place in the world, not simply inherit it. And that philosophy became the foundation of his estate plan. While some of his wealth would go directly to his children, a significant portion was set aside for charitable causes, education funds, and music preservation projects. Mick wanted his fortune to have purpose, to reflect the values he'd developed after a lifetime of fame, loss, and learning. When the details began to circulate privately among his family, emotions ran high. Some were surprised, others hurt. A few of his older children, who had expected more direct inheritance, were said to be in tears, not just because of the money, but because the decisions revealed how their father truly viewed legacy. For Mick, it was never just about dividing wealth. It was about ensuring that his name, his work, and his message lived on long after he was gone. His youngest children, born later in his life, were provided for differently. Trusts were established to secure their education and future, while his older children received shares in music and property holdings, a symbolic gesture that tied them directly to his creative legacy. It was his way of saying that the family's connection to his art was more meaningful than any financial figure. The emotional impact was immense. Even those who respected Mick's choices admitted that reading the details of his will was overwhelming. It wasn't the fortune itself that made them cry. It was the realization of what it represented, a lifetime of memories, sacrifices, and complex relationships all written down in legal language. It was the end of an era, the final chapter of a life that had shaped modern music and pop culture for more than half a century. For fans around the world, Mick Jagger will always be the face of rock and roll, a symbol of rebellion and endurance. But for his family, the reality behind the legend is far more emotional. The fortune he leaves behind isn't just money. It's the story of a man who built an empire, loved deeply, made mistakes, and tried, in his own way, to set things right before the final curtain call. To the outside world, Mick Jagger's life has always looked larger than life, a whirlwind of fame, women, parties, and endless energy. But behind the glitz, there's a man who has endured profound emotional losses, quiet heartbreaks, and moments of deep solitude. Despite being one of rock's most charismatic figures, Mick has lived through tragedy that would break even the strongest among us. In 2014, Jagger faced one of the darkest periods of his life when his longtime partner, fashion designer Loren Scott, was found dead in her New York apartment. The two had been together for over a decade, and her sudden passing left Mick shattered. Behind closed doors, the rock legend was inconsolable, canceling tour dates and retreating from the public eye. Friends close to him said he was numb, struggling to comprehend how someone so full of life could disappear overnight. Many didn't know how close Mick and Loren were. She wasn't just his girlfriend. She was his confidant, the calm center in his stormy rock and roll life. Jagger, who had always managed to maintain composure through countless scandals, couldn't hide his pain this time. The man who once seemed invincible was suddenly broken, proof that even icons are not immune to heartbreak. But tragedy wasn't new to Jagger. His life has been peppered with moments of loss and regret. His relationship with his children has often been complicated, strained by years of fame, absences, and emotional distance. Mick has 8 children with 5 different women, and though he's always tried to provide for them financially, maintaining deep personal connections hasn't been easy. Some of his children have described him as loving but distant, a man torn between being a father and being a rock god. Jagger's personal relationships have also been marked by turmoil. From his marriages to his numerous affairs, the line between love and chaos was always thin. His first marriage to Bianca Jagger ended in a bitter divorce, and his tumultuous relationship with Jerry Hall, mother of 4 of his children, eventually crumbled under the weight of infidelity. Even after decades in the limelight, Mick struggled to find lasting peace in love. Behind the fame, Jagger has also faced the loneliness that often comes with success. Despite his status, he has confessed in interviews that the life of a rock star can be isolating. The endless touring, the constant pressure to stay relevant, and the fear of aging out of the spotlight have haunted him for years. Though he still performs with the same energy he had in his 20s, the man behind the microphone is no longer invincible. He's a survivor. In recent years, Mick has battled health scares that forced him to confront his own mortality. In 2019, he underwent heart valve surgery, a procedure that shocked fans around the world. For the first time, the indestructible frontman of the Rolling Stones looked fragile. Yet, just months after the operation, he was back on stage, dancing, singing, and proving that his spirit was stronger than ever. Still, those close to him say that his perspective changed after that. He began to think more about legacy, family, and the fleeting nature of time. Even as he approaches his twilight years, Mick Jagger continues to carry the weight of his past. The lost loves, the missed chances, the endless search for meaning beyond fame. He once said, "You can't always get what you want," but in his case, it's more than just a lyric. It's the story of his life. While his fortune and fame are unimaginable, the emotional cost has been steep. The world sees a legend. His family sees a man who has given everything to his music, sometimes at the expense of everything else. And now, as he grows older, the man who once had it all seems to be realizing that some of the things he lost along the way, love, connection, and time, can never be bought back, no matter how big the fortune he leaves behind. As Mick Jagger approaches his twilight years, the conversation has inevitably shifted from his wild youth to the legacy he will leave behind. The fortune he's amassed over 6 decades is staggering, estimated to be well over $500 million, but money alone doesn't tell the story. His wealth is a reflection of relentless work, shrewd business moves, and an unyielding dedication to performance. Yet for his family, that same fortune represents something bittersweet, a lifetime of memories they never fully got to share with him. Throughout his career, Mick was always in motion, always on tour, in the studio, or chasing the next artistic high. His band, the Rolling Stones, wasn't just a group, it was his identity. But that devotion came at a price. His 8 children, spread across multiple relationships, often grew up seeing their father more in newspapers than in person. Some of them, like Georgia May and James Jagger, followed his creative path, while others chose quieter lives. Yet all of them share the complicated pride of being linked to one of the most famous men alive, and the pain of knowing how little time fame leaves for family. Even now, Jagger remains a perfectionist. Every performance, every tour, every note has to meet his impossibly high standards. He once admitted that slowing down scares him more than aging. And though he's made peace with his past mistakes, those who know him best say he still carries guilt for the relationships that fell apart because of his choices. Behind his sharp wit and endless charisma lies a man who has seen too much. Too many goodbyes, too many lost friends, and too many reminders that time catches everyone. Even rock gods. The death of his bandmates over the years has also weighed heavily on him. Losing Charlie Watts in 2021 hit especially hard. Charlie wasn't just the Stones' drummer. He was Mick's anchor, the quiet force who balanced his chaos. On stage, Jagger managed to hold himself together, performing with strength and grace, but fans could see it in his eyes. Something inside him had shifted. For the first time, Mick seemed aware that the era he helped create was slowly fading away. Yet, through all the loss and heartbreak, Jagger's spirit remains unbroken. He continues to perform with astonishing energy, defying age and expectation. Watching him on stage today, it's easy to forget he's in his 80s. His voice may have changed, and his moves may be more deliberate, but the fire is still there, a living reminder of the man who once revolutionized music. He doesn't just sing for the crowd anymore. He sings for the memories, for the people he's lost, and for the legacy that will outlive him, for his family. The fortune he'll one day leave behind is more than just wealth. It's a symbol of a complicated inheritance. The world will remember Mick Jagger as the ultimate rock star, but to them, he's also the man they tried to know beyond the fame. His will reportedly ensures that all of his children are provided for, but it's clear that no amount of money can replace the years spent apart, and perhaps that's what makes his story so profoundly human. Despite the global fame, the screaming crowds, and the unimaginable riches, Mick Jagger's life has been marked by the same struggles we all face: love, loss, regret, and the search for peace. He may have danced through life in the spotlight, but even legends can't escape the quiet ache of mortality. When the final curtain falls, Mick Jagger's true legacy won't just be his songs or his fortune. It will be the way he lived fearlessly, loved imperfectly, and kept moving no matter how heavy the burden. And as his family looks back on his extraordinary life, they'll undoubtedly shed tears, not just for what he built, but for what was lost along the way. Because behind every note of his timeless music lies a man who gave everything to the world, and in doing so, left pieces of himself scattered across time.